Greetings everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Sew Yarn Knit and Crochet. Welcome and thank you for subscribing to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to crochet using the Tunisian crochet, and I'm using 5.5mm crochet size hook, the Tunisian crochet. And for this pattern we are required to cast on an odd number of chains, for example 15, 21, 17 and so on. So once you have made an odd number of chains, we are now going to start working into this foundation row, and we are going to insert our crochet into the second stitch from the hook all the way till the end of the row. What I'm going to show you is a one row repeat pattern. It's very easy to follow. So for my yarn, I'm using medium size yarn. We are advised when using the Tunisian crochet, use as a crochet size hook a bit bigger than you normally would. So continue drawing up the loops until you get to the end of your row. So once we have drawn up the loops, make sure that the number of chains you started with is the number of chain on the loops. For example, I chained 15 loops, 15 chains, and I have 15 loops on my Tunisian crochet. And now we are going to start drawing out the loops. For the first loop, we quack it on its own, and then we draw out the loops in twos until we are done with our row. Continue drawing out the loops in twos until you have completed your row 1. So I have completed the second row, and now we are going to work our loops back onto the Tunisian crochet, and we are going to work the loops in twos. So for the first 2 loops, insert your crochet below the first 2 loops and then draw out some yarn. And then moving forward, we are required to yarn over and insert your crochet into the next 2 loops and then draw out the loops. So we are going to be repeating this pattern until we have completed our row and we only have 2 stitches left. Continue working the pattern until you have 2 stitches left or 2 loops left, and then I'll guide you on how to go about it. So when we have just 2 loops left, 1 and 2, we are going to yarn over and insert only into the second last loop and then draw out some yarn. And then for the last loop, we are going to work it together with this other loop on the other end. So insert your crochet into both of the loops there at the end. And then for this one, we are not going to yarn over. We are going to work the loops normally. And then we are now going to draw out the loops like we did earlier. For the first loop, we work it on its own so that we have a smooth edge at the end. And then now we are going to draw out the loops in twos until we get to the end of the row. Continue drawing out the loops in twos until you have completed your row. So I have completed that row. Like I said earlier, this is a one row repeat pattern, and we are going to repeat exactly what we did earlier. For the first 2 loops, we are not going to yarn over. We are simply going to insert the crochet into the first 2 loops and then draw out some yarn. And then for the rest of the loops, except the last 2, we are going to yarn over, insert our crochet into the next 2 loops and then draw out some yarn. Continue with the pattern until you only have 2 loops left. Continue with the pattern until you have only 2 loops left. So I want to repeat what I've just illustrated earlier on. So when you have only 2 loops left, we are going to work. So for the second last loop, you yarn over and then insert your crochet into only that 1 loop and then yarn over. When you get to the end, we are going to work this loop and this loop together normally. We are not going to yarn over. Insert your crochet and draw out some yarn and then continue with the pattern. So remember, for the first loop, we have to work it on its own because we want to maintain a neat edge. And then as we proceed on with the pattern, take out the loops in twos and repeat the pattern. So once you have done more rows, you should have something that looks like this. This is the front part of the pattern, and this is the back part of the pattern. This pattern is irreversible. It is not this, it doesn't look the same on both sides. Thank you so much once again for subscribing to my channel. Happy crocheting!